So this week we are reading Parshas Ve'eschanan, which always comes the week after Tisha B'Av, the Haftorah, the famous Haftorah of Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, be comforted, as we transition from the mourning, the sadness of Tisha B'Av to the comfort that follows. And Parshas Ve'eschanan is one of those parshios that is chock full of important parts. We have in it the Ten Commandments, the Aseret Gibros. We have the first paragraph of the Shema. We have a number of things where Moshe is describing the events at Har Sinai, at Mount Sinai, and basically saying there never was something else like this in the world. This is so unique that how could anybody not realize? And describes it, and many other points that are made, which are really pillars and very important parts of our belief. I want to concentrate on one little part that has to do with the paragraph of the Shema. So we know we read Shema at least twice a day, in the morning and the evening, and we're certainly very familiar with the words. We say Shema Yisrael, right? Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. And then we say, and you shall love Hashem, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha, with all your heart, etc. The last thing we say is, and you shall write them, Uchesavtam al Mezuzos Beisach of Yisharecha. You should write it on the Mezuzos, which is the doorposts of your house and your gates. And of course, we're familiar with the idea of putting a mezuzah up on our door. Now, just for the record, a mezuzah is not that outer thing. It's the actual scroll that's written by hand by a sofer, just like a Torah on parchment. And the word mezuzah really means doorpost. So when it says you shall write them on the doorposts of your house. So we're calling the scroll a mezuzah, but really the doorpost is the mezuzah, and we're putting the scroll on the doorpost. And as the Rabbeinu Machaye points out, what's in that mezuzah is extremely very core to our beliefs. It has so many important points, as we just said. He's talking about loving Hashem, right? And he says from this mitzvah we see many of the Ikarei HaTorah, the basics of the Torah in terms of faith and God's creating of the world and God's hashgacha, his providence over everything that's going on, right? We have the first part talks about the Yichud of Hashem, the unity and uniqueness of Hashem, the learning of Torah, right? And then in the second part we talk about, which is the second paragraph, which is actually going to be next week's Parsha, which talks about reward and punishment, right? For what comes. These are the core beliefs that we have, that we learned in our 13 principles of faith. And of course, the third paragraph is going to talk about the Exodus. So all of these are core. Now, that part is not in the mezuzah. The idea, though, is we are putting up a mezuzah. Now, if you think about your mezuzah, what happens? There is a bracha that is said when you put the mezuzah and you affix it to the door, right? We say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, blessed is Hashem, God of the world. We say, who commanded us likboa mezuzah, to basically establish and affix a mezuzah to the doorpost. And to some degree, you might think, okay, it's a one-time deal. You put it up and that's it. And now some people do, some people don't pay attention to what it is. And by the way, it's not just to the entrance to your house, it's to every room. Mezuzah applies to every single room that is a room that you use. It doesn't apply to a washroom, it doesn't apply to a small closet, but any room that you use in the house has to have its own mezuzah on it. And we are saying that we're putting up this mezuzah, and we're making this bracha to affix the mezuzah. And the question is a little bit, what are we doing? Because you're putting up the doorpost. What does it mean you're putting up the doorpost? Because that's what you're saying. You're saying, I'm putting up a mezuzah. I'm putting up a doorpost. So how do we understand that? And Rabbi Shalom Rosner, in his book Shalom Rav, he quotes Rav Mecklenburg, who wrote a sefer called Ksav HaKabbalah, and he says that if you think of the word mezuzah, what is the root of the word mezuzah? The root is zaz, two zayin, zaz. Zaz means to move, or zuz, and the root of the word mezuzah has to do with moving. and there's a constant when we talk about money, by the way, the one of the words for coins is zuzim, or we saw zuzim was certainly in the Talmudic times, because it moves. Money moves around. Money's not something that's stationary. Money is something that changes hands, right? That's what money's for. Money is to change hands. So it moves. A mezuzah, he wants to suggest, is that a doorpost is called a mezuzah because people are moving through it. That's what happens. We're passing through. We're passing in and out of the doorpost, and there's always movement going on. A doorpost isn't there just for the sake of what's the point of having a door and a doorway unless someone's going to go through it, right? That's the whole point of having an entranceway and a doorway. So he wants to say as follows, that the mezuzah is a reminder to us that the words that are inside it, the words of the Torah, they move with us. It's not something that's stationary. And that when we're going in and out of that door, when we're going into the inside, we're coming outside, we are reminded of what's inside, what the words that are in the scroll are. We're reminded, you love Hashem Elokecha. You love Hashem. We're reminded that v'dibarta bam, to speak about Torah when we get up in the morning, when we go to sleep, right? When we are go b'lechtecha b'derech, when we're going traveling, and when we're shiftecha b'reisecha, when we're sitting in our houses, right? Wherever we are, we're taking it with us. And the idea is then that putting up a mezuzah is not that's the end of it. Putting up a mezuzah is the beginning. And it's telling us that every time you walk in that door, take what's in it with you. Move it with you wherever we go. And it's a constant reminder that the mezuzah is being affixed to us, not just to the doorpost, but to ourselves. And therefore, everything that we do, we're reminded to include v'ahavta Hashem Elokecha, love Hashem, follow in the ways of the Torah. And in that sense, we are taking it with us wherever we go. The mezuzah is moving with us all the time. We'll hold it there. Have a great Shabbos, everyone.